This show is going to be absolutely packed with information you need to win your fantasy draft. 15 more preseason games in the books. That means at least 15 more rankings changes from my brain, from Hayden Winston's brain. Always amazing how many takeaways we can get from watching these games, reading nuggets from beat writers. Hayden, I have, 2,000 words, if not more, written out down below. I'm excited to tell the people all about it.
On Underdog Network, I think I got 20,000 about from the last couple weeks here. Here's the big thing, though. Preseason week 3 is not that big of a deal. A lot of the teams are only using their depth guys. So this was like our last big week of learning some depth chart pieces. And something you always talk about is after the preseason wraps up, beat reporters are not coming over to the facilities. So the entire NFL just goes completely dark for a week or so. So this was kind of our last week to get really kind of changing our rankings based off of what we're seeing in camp and on the games.
Yeah, trades will happen, cut down day will happen. So there'll be some movement from that. But in terms of on the field action, this is the last we're going to get from the first and second stringers. So this is one of the biggest shows that we have all season long. So buckle up. Here we go. A whole bunch of backfields to lead off with. And it's always dangerous, Hayden, to start a show ahead of a game that night. But we have to do that here in this case of the Washington Commanders, because we got news from Jordan Schultz saying that, quote, the Commanders have been shopping running back Brian Robinson Jr. to teams around the NFL. He mentions that Washington likes its running back depth, but Robinson is available for the right price. He's been going as running back 29 on all platforms over these last few weeks. So my question to you, should we simply outright rank Austin Ekeler and or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt ahead of Brian Robinson based on this news?
I haven't done that quite yet, but obviously with the trade, we'll see where Brian Robinson lands up. If he goes to the Bears or the Cowboys and stuff, he can end up still being a top 120 overall pick. But right now I did bury Brian Robinson well after the top 100. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Austin Ekeler sneaked right inside my top 150, depending obviously on the league scoring here. But just to kind of reiterate that point, it's Chris Rodriguez and JCM as the kind of thumper types. And that's the reason why Brian Robinson's not necessarily in the picture for the Commanders. We'll see what kind of trade market comes up here. I think it would be a very late pick. But I do think that they are being serious about this. Ben Standig actually was predicting this,
Exactly.
not even reporting, just I'm watching the games. I've seen what these guys can do. I've watched the practices, and somebody's not going to make this roster. And only one guy probably has real trade value, and that's Brian Robinson.
That quote from Ben Standig, who now writes over on Substack, says, quote, I'm going to guess Brian Robinson Jr. is not on the week 1 roster. I have no insight into that. If Krosky-Merritt is on this team, I just don't know how you're sitting him. One, that's a lot when we're recording this for about 7 carries in preseason action. At the same exact time, this team has seen JCM, or Bill, as he would like to be called, Bill, throughout the entire summer. We haven't seen, though, a 7th round rookie running back take command of a backfield since Isaiah Pacheco.
Yep.
I do think because of that, Hayden, Austin Ekeler's name is kind of vanishing in, the nether realm when it really shouldn't be. He's going as running back 53 on Underdog, 45 in your home leagues. Bill Merritt, Krosky-Merritt, I should say, running back 54 on Underdog, 71 in your home leagues. Maybe just a zoomed out view here. The Commanders just think that Brian Robinson doesn't fit their offense, their style. He is this thumper. He's between the tackles. Yeah. He's been a decent player. I mean, let's not forget everything he has gone through in the NFL when it comes to injuries and being shot, and, had a real hot start for the first 6 weeks of last season, then got injured and came back into the fold. So the only thing that's the voice in the back of my head is when we get these types of mentions ahead of the season, that isn't for no reason, and typically if a trade can't be found, these guys ultimately just get cut. And so I even wonder if that is a potential outcome here. Not something I'm predicting, but just a potential outcome. I have already moved Austin Ekeler ahead of Brian Robinson Jr. ranking.
Yeah, I think they're all close. I think you can take your shots. It reminds me of the Jacksonville backfield at this point, where we know that the offense is going to be somewhat functional. For the Commander's sake, it was very good last year. I think I had a note where if you combine all of the expected rushing touchdowns from the backfield last year in Washington, they were actually top 5. So there's definitely some upside to chase. I wanted to make one quick note on Bill. He fell to the 7th round but he doesn't necessarily have 7th round talent because he was not eligible. He did not go to the combine because he was not eligible. It was a weird, like, jersey related issue with him. So in theory, he could be a lot more, productive, a lot better of an asset than your typical 7th round pick. Like, the reason why he fell was because of just some chaos in the NCAA, not necessarily that he's like some bad player. So I don't want to like go crazy with him. He does not have to be the next Arian Foster or Isaiah Pacheco. He can be somewhere in between, and maybe just enough to kind of push B-Rob out of the way. But there is definitely a goal line opportunity awaiting for somebody here if B-Rob does get moved. So I do think that he deserves some top 150 love.
I also have Bill ahead of Brian Robinson Jr. I just saw my rankings. I have B-Rob as running back 45, JCM as running back 42, and then Austin Eckler all the way up as running back 34. So I'm much, much higher than consensus on the final two. Last theory here. If we have the aging Austin Eckler, if we have a 7th round running back in Bill Krosky-Merritt, could that give us even more Deebo Samuel manufactured touch stuff like we saw a la the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, that would all make sense. Obviously, Jay Daniel's going to mix in there in the ground game too. So I think it's most likely scenario. Let's say B-Rob does leave in some capacity. It's probably going to be a committee backfield with the quarterback and wide receiver stealing some touches. So it's not like I would move JCM like into the 70s or 80s if B-Rob gets kind of pushed out. I think that it would be a kind of just a everybody moves up. I think they would all be flex candidates. There's definitely some upside here, but like you said, like Deebo's going to get involved here. Jaden's going to get involved here. I think Chris Rodriguez, like they really like him as well. So
Jeremy McNichols, they used last year at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, I would draft like JCM, like Bashal Tootin, Jaden Blue and stuff. Like I think that he has a higher chance of like being a starter early on.
Final actionable info on this one. The best course of action is at this point just to fade Brian Robinson Jr. in your drafts. And if you're doing these home leagues where Bill Krosky-Merritt is going as running back 71, attack that ADP multiple rounds in advance for me. Fair?
Yep. Totally fair.
Okay. Let's now go to the Jets backfield because no Isaiah Davis in this game. That is something to keep in mind. But what we did see is 18 snaps for the starting offense out there. And that ended with 11 for Breece Hall and 8 for Braelon Allen, including all 3rd downs. So with that in mind, with taking a second week in the split backfield that we were promised from Tanner Engstrand and Aaron Glenn, are there any certain takeaways we can have on how Big Green is going to unleash their running backs this year?
Yeah, the big thing was Braelon Allen was subbing in on 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1 situations, which if you want to extrapolate would also mean a lot of the goal line reps. And this Jets offense isn't going to be very good. Justin Fields is also going to mix in there. So how does Breece Hall pay off the round 3 ADP? Like he needed the goal line role and he needed to catch a bunch of passes. I still think that he can catch a lot of passes in this one. But no Isaiah Davis, and he was actually subbing in on 3rd and long situations this last week. So not a great first 2 appearances for Breece Hall in terms of projected workload. So I have him by like Alvin Kamara and Chuba Hubbard and James Conner and that kind of tier, and less so in the Omarion Hampton tier at this point, because I just don't think this offense is going to be very good because of the way Justin Fields is playing and the history of Justin Fields. And even if he is good, if Braelon Allen's going to sub in on right at the goal line, then Breece Hall is going to have to catch a ton of passes in half PPR to kind of stay afloat.
Albert Breer also chimed in saying, quote, stuff I've heard on Jets running back Braelon Allen is getting backed up in this game versus the Giants. Think he gets a shot to have a monster year. People know my case on this. I've been taking Braelon Allen all summer long. I think the only conclusion we can make is Breece Hall's not playing 3rd downs. You know, he didn't play 3rd downs in the first preseason game. Isaiah Davis did that. He didn't play 3rd downs in this game. It was 3rd and short, Braelon Allen, and then a 3rd and 8 came in. Braelon Allen also was in on that snap. So A plus B equals C. It's like almost a pre-2024 maybe role for Breece Hall that like James Cook got, for example, in terms of between the 20s is what this guy's going to be minus passing situations. And that is incredibly troublesome. I mean, he's going as running back 15 on Underdog at this moment. I have him as running back 19. You have him as running back 18. I understand that if this offense is going to be like purely based on the ground, one of the drives that they had, they ran it 10 times on one 12-play drive. But look, it's not like Breece has been super efficient over the last 2 years. And this team clearly loves Braelon Allen and also appreciates Isaiah Davis. I just can't go there with Breece at ADP at this moment.
Yeah, this is a contract year. This is the same class as James Cook, Kyron Williams, and he is not negotiating with the Jets because it's a brand new staff and stuff. So there's a chance he gets traded at the deadline or something like that, and he can fall into the right spot. But right now, like an early down role on a bad team that's like reminiscent of like what Chuba Hubbard is in like the 5th round. So I think like that's kind of the correction that I'm making here. I've him at 49th overall. Braelon Allen at 127th. It just really depends if Braelon Allen's going to be the goal line back and only like a half PPR kind of flex play, or if they're actually going to throw him some passes. I think that he can do it, perhaps. I do think Isaiah Davis is going to be part of this backfield as well. So I did move Braelon Allen up
Finally,
quite a lot. Yeah,
we did it. So, yeah, we did it.
It was a good call by you for sure.
Zach Rosenblatt, beat writer, quote, Justin Fields is averaging 3.9 air yards per attempt in the preseason, and it hasn't been much more than that in practice either. So all offseason, I've been fading Garrett Wilson at this ADP. I understand that if people want to throw target share in our faces, that he might lead the league in it. Okay, he was also, nearly top 5 in targets last season across the NFL, and that still got us a wide receiver 21-ish outcome in points per game. So I do not feel confident about this passing game. I feel more confident about the running game. Hopefully they are in tight ball games because of the defense, but that's just going to give us, more in the direction of value in the Braelon Allen camp, less in the Breece Hall camp, and then I think even less in the Garrett Wilson camp.
Justin seems like he's trying to transition away from like the only thing that was like really good about him in the NFL. He seems like, and I saw this in Pittsburgh too, he seems like he wants to be like the take the check down, like throw the ball underneath type of guy. And like the best of Justin Fields is like run around like a maniac, throw the ball over the top. And right now, I just like do not think that he's seeing things clearly. He was late on throws, like on a clear 3rd and 8 situation. He was like just staring down Garrett Wilson, despite there being like clear safety over the top of him. The ball is like kind of being sprayed around right now. So man, I have really, really, really bad vibes from this passing attack. I will note one thing real quick. Mason Taylor played on 13 of the 18 snaps, the 2nd round rookie tight end. He had an injury earlier in camp, but he's like ready to go right now. He was subbed out for Jeremy Ruckert. But Mason Taylor like could be the 2nd target in this offense, and he's like a last round pick in best ball. I don't think that we're going to talk about him early on this season, but he is somebody that I did think was a reliable target down the road. And there's like no wide receiver 2. If Breece Hall gets traded or something like that, like who are they going to throw the ball to? It could be Mason Taylor late in the season.
Garrett Wilson is going 31st overall on UD at this point. I have him 43rd overall. You're at 36. By the way, tomorrow's episode, Hayden's going to be unleashing his PPR rankings for all of you in a video. So if you're not subscribed right now, what are you doing? You don't want to win your league. The only people who are doctor certified, more likely to win first place in their home, friends, and family league are the people that have hit that subscribe button, and especially the ones that leave a thumbs up. So we appreciate it if you are new around here. Final note, this Giants team that they faced off in the preseason this past weekend against have been using Abdul Carter as an interior rusher in these like NASCAR pass rushing packages. I did really like that Tanner Ings train in one of the 3rd and 8 situations when Abdul Carter was lining up outside of the right guard, and then you had John Franklin Myers opposite one of the other guards, and then the middle linebacker was face up on the center. He basically ran it right at the quote unquote undersized interior player in Abdul Carter and at the linebacker, and they picked up 12 yards on 8. So just cool stuff from the first year OC. And that's, the type of things that we want moving forward. Okay. Speaking of, let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield. Last week, we know Travis Etienne got a full first series with the starters, which to me led people to make conclusions that he was the lead running back in this team. This week, it was more by situation. Tank Bigsby got the start, played mostly 1st and 2nd downs. Then Etienne came in for mostly 3rd downs and a few other snaps. What was your read of the change in backfield split this week for Jacksonville?
This looked like how the rotation's going to be. Travis Etienne was the 3rd down back on the Tank Bigsby drive, and then Travis Etienne got the drive the next time out. Bashal Tutin didn't enter the game until after Trevor Lawrence was out there. If Travis Etienne's like going to be like the primarily like screen guy, and then he's also going to get early down drives as well, he's still my favorite in this backfield, but Tank Bigsby is going to have some level of a role here. Tank Bigsby did catch his pass and actually had a nice little stiff arm on that as well. Bashal Tutin, I thought, looked totally fine against backups out there. They still have the Quentin Allen, another rookie out there. So I think they feel good about their backfield. I think it's going to be a rotation. I don't think that any of them is going to be Bucky Irving. If I had to pick one to start in week 1 in your flex spot or your RB3 spot, it would definitely be Travis Etienne. That does not mean that Tank Bigsby and Bashal Tune should go undrafted. I think all these guys are going to have opportunities here. And I just think if like one guy was going to fully break out and like absorb a big chunk of the role, it's probably Travis Etienne, maybe it'd be Bashal Tune. I don't think that Tank Bigsby would have like the entire like passing down role, but I do think Tank Bigsby is going to be like maybe in like a 40% share early on in the season. That does provide some value.
On 17 Trevor Lawrence snaps, Tank Bigsby saw 9, Travis Etienne saw 8, and as you said, Bashal Tune did not play a single snap with the starters for the second straight week. You and I still disagree in this backfield, which is totally fine. I'm still in fade Travis Etienne mode. He's been going now down slipping as the running back 33. I'm still fading that. I'm still taking Tank Bigsby and ranking him over, even though Tank Bigsby's now being selected as like running back 39. I just think he's the more explosive runner. I think he's the better runner. I think he's going to get the first and second down work. He even caught a pass in this game, a manufactured screen that went for 25 yards because he made multiple people miss. And then to me, the one that could lose some of his work is like Travis Etienne as the season goes along to someone like Bashal Tune. So I'm just like fade Etienne, take a cheaper option in Bigsby or Tune of this backfield, and hopefully like your wild card gets you in the later portions of the season or in the pockets that you need it for your starting lineup.
I did look back when we unleashed our ADPs right after the NFL draft. All 3 of these guys are within 1 round of where their initials ADP. So we've done this huge roller coaster, all these debates and stuff. And like, if we had just gone outside and like went swimming, the ADPs would have actually ended up the exact same.
Okay, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. If people are freaking out about the Jaguars backfield, it's turned up to 11 here with the Raiders and their tight end usage of all things. So with 15 snaps with Geno Smith on the field, Michael Mayer took 10 and Brock Bowers took 7. As soon as this was happening, as soon as, Nathan Yonke and everyone, Dwayne McFarland, who do a great job with these utilization reports in the preseason and usage on top of it, posted their notes. Again, there was fantasy football freakout. What is your read on how this offense is going to unfold? Should people be concerned about Brock Bowers not being on the field?
I mean, I think having some concern is fair here. The details of this, they're in 11 personnel on 17 of the 19 Geno Smith dropbacks, including the first preseason game. The 2 ones that he was not in 1 tight end sets were the 3 tight end sets at the goal line. So like when it's been like 1st and 10 at midfield and stuff, for example, it's always been 3 wide receiver sets. And in those 3 wide receiver sets, they've actually been rotating Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is a little bit bigger. Michael Mayer is still a 2nd round pick, yada, yada, yada. It does seem insane to me for a couple things. Number one, I would be pretty surprised if Brock Bowers was not out there, at least ahead of Michael Mayer. I also don't think that the Raiders are going to be in 3 wide receiver sets on like 90% of their dropbacks. For reference, last year, Chip Kelly's Buckeyes were in 3 wide receiver sets on 70% of plays. They ran 12 personnel on 20% of their plays. We have not seen any 12 personnel in this preseason so far. I will say, like, the round 2 is very loaded right now. So if you want to break some ties, and it is possible, I do think that Brock Bowers loses like a couple reps to Michael Mayer for like blocking purposes. But I found like the entire situation pretty fascinating because Chip Kelly's offense is like supposed to be this like, or at least the narrative is like, this is like some under center ground and pound attack. They have like run 0 RPOs. They've been in shotgun or pistol on almost every single snap. They've been in 3 wide receiver sets on almost every single snap. So it's kind of like taking the philosophy of like spread everybody out and then like run like the more traditional concepts on the ground. So maybe that's why Michael Mayer sprinkling in a little bit more. I moved Brock Bowers down a couple spots. If he's available in round 3, you take him. If you want to break ties against him in round 2, I do think that is appropriate. I think that the discussion between Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, I do think is a fair one.
I am totally unmoved. Let's put it that way. Unfazed
like 0 ranking changes
by this stuff.
At all.
0 ranking changes. He's still 17th overall for me. Like, I get it. When we look at utilization across the board with all of these preseason games, we want to read into every single one. I think it's like our jobs to say which ones matter and which ones don't. I agree that they've been mostly an 11 personnel team so far this preseason. I also, again, want to take a step back, breathe, and say, do we really think that Michael Mayer, Trey Tucker, and Dante Thornton are keeping Brock Bowers off the field this season? That is a ridiculous statement to me.
For sure. Yeah, no, for sure. They're going to use more 12 personnel than they've showed, which has been 0%. So we know that's going to go up. And I do think in the 11 personnel stuff, it's not going to be Michael Mayer like out snapping Brock Bowers in this one. So it's just been it's been a different version of the offense as a whole than I think a lot of people were expecting. And I do find it fascinating. I think they're going to still be pretty balanced, but they're going to be balanced out of shotgun and probably spreading teams out a little bit more than I think people assume with like the Chip Kelly style offense of the past. They use like pistol, no RPOs, all the type of stuff. So it's been like an interesting take on Chip Kelly, who is an interesting guy by himself. So that's kind of where I moved him down like a couple spots. Not a big deal.
Right. But in like the third round territory is where you are, like in the 2-3 turn territory now.
Yeah, I have him out at the turn. Trey McBride, by the way, is also really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, if people before this wanted to, and the debate was totally fine of Trey McBride over Brock Bowers, I would listen to that all the time. I'm just not in the business of believing that someone who had 112 receptions, 1,200 yards as a rookie is now going to get phased out for Michael Mayer, Dante Thornton, and Trey Tucker so they can run 11 personnel all the time. Like, I still think we're going to get plenty of snaps for Brock Bowers to like have a very good chance of still being the tight end one out there. And I just think like this freak out of, well, Michael Mayer is now the tight end one, but they also want to get Dante Thornton out there and then Jacoby Myers in the slot. Like, this offense, this passing offense is going to revolve around Brock Bowers. It is that simple.
Yeah,
I understand the preseason takeaways and usage has been different than that, but I don't want to read into the situation more than, hey, they've just been playing 11 personnel and Brock Bowers is, the son. Like, he is the son of this offense and everything revolves around him in the passing game.
And on the first play, he dunked on a linebacker or safety who was unfairly matched on him. So yeah, he's still going to be very, very, very good. The round 2 is also very, very, very loaded. So that's like where I think if you want to like move him down a couple spots, I do think that is totally. They probably just wanted to see if like Thornton could like be out there and run the offense, and like it's probably more valuable to see him with the first team out there rather than Brock Bowers. They already know how good Brock Bowers is. So like, this is not like anyone saying anything crazy about the situation is definitely overplaying.
Also thought Ashton Genty looked like he was back at Boise State. The cuts he was making, the truck sticks he was using, lowering his head, the run stamina that we always discussed where, he could run over someone, then immediately accelerate and then pick up an extra 5, 10, 15. In college, that was 35, 45 yards. And it wasn't just on a single run. It was multiple runs in the same game. So for someone who was bottled up for like 1 yard in his preseason debut, it was really fun to see the cuts, the jukes, the truck sticks, all that type of stuff. And Ashton Genty is going to be the other focal point of this offense. That's for sure.
That was another big takeaway in this offense. Like, he's not being subbed out at all. And like, we can read into that as like, he's going to have one of the true bell cow workload, which means he's going to catch a bunch of passes and stuff. And I am reading into that. So I did move Ashton Genty up. Like, there was always a chance that he was going to be playing like 75% of the snaps. In the preseason, it's been like almost 100% of the Geno Smith snaps. The only one that he was out on was after he had gotten to that car crash, catching that little dump off out there. So yeah, I moved him up a little bit more just because like he's not coming off the field right now.
I have Genty as 9th overall. That's been quite consistent for me. Okay. Another running game, the Seattle Seahawks. It's one I've been hyping up all offseason long. And the Seahawks just rushed for 119 yards in the first quarter of this preseason game. So like, that's as a package. Blockers got to the second level. They were clearing lanes for explosive gains for Zach Charbonnet and all these dudes running after him. The other part of this is that Mike McDonald says the plan for Kenneth Walker, who returned to practice on Sunday, is, quote, to be full go Thursday in 1v1s joint practices with the Packers in Green Bay. Okay. This is important because Zach Charbonnet has been playing well and people have been hyping him up as the potential running back one because of Ken Walker being in and out of practice. You and I have been of the belief that it's just been a maintenance. It's been this plan all along for Ken Walker. I'm sure there is soreness, but it's quite different than a bunch of these other injuries that we're going to hit on a bit later on, that they are just flat out missing practices for weeks and weeks and weeks. He's been going on day and then some off days, on days and then some off days. So to me, when I see that rushing success, I see the running lanes by Gray Zabel and company, and then I think of Ken Walker fitting in this wide zone, outside zone system. I continue to rank Kenneth Walker ridiculously higher than ADP, and I believe I have him as my running back 12 right now.
He is my 35th overall player on Underdog. He's being drafted as the 47th overall player, so I'm well ahead there. And then even with Zach Charbonnet, I'm like a full round ahead on Zach Charbonnet.
Same.
This team's going to run the shit out of the football, and we didn't know if it was going to be very effective. Now I'm feeling a lot better about the situation. Gray Zabel had a rep where he like kind of had to hurdle over a defensive tackle's leg and then go climb to the second level. He looked outstanding. The other big one was their right tackle, Abe Lucas, who like a couple seasons ago, there was a lot of hype about him. He's been dealing with injuries for the last couple years. He was out there making awesome blocks and he looked phenomenal out there. So we're talking about like multiple new pieces back in the lineup for Seattle, where like this can go from like, you know, like the 30th, 31st offensive line last year to like, could they be average or even above average? Some of the signs from this camp have been very, very promising there. So I think this is just going to be a team that's going to win with defense, like old school 49ers, Seahawks division stuff, run it, throw it over the top, win with defense. And that's great news for Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet.
I have Ken Walker ahead of James Cook, Amarian Hampton, Kyron Williams. Again, putting all my chips on the table of this one. Obviously, Breathall, like that doesn't even need to be mentioned at this point. Look, if you disagree with me about Kenneth Walker III, you need to be taking Zach Charbonnet in every single draft. It is that simple. If you think Ken Walker is going to miss time now and in the future because of injury, you need to be taking Zach Charbonnet because this is the focal point of this offense. And it's one, if you go back to the Gary Kubiak days, has been one of the most successful. And it feels like from the jump, this is fitting the blocking, the personnel, and everything on top of it. So this is one to attack that is undervalued compared to other, not top rushing attacks, but really good rushing attacks. Our buddy Ian Hartitz even noted this, that, and again, it's just preseason action. We're reading into this one. 2024 regular season, 0.9 yards before contact on average is what Seahawks running backs averaged. In the 2025 preseason, that was 1.6. That's a jump from 30th to 4th in the league.
I have some passing game notes real quick. Like you said, AJ Barner, 8 out of 10 snaps with Sam Darnold. Elijah Arroyo was playing like into the fourth quarter as the tight end 3. So if you had to take a dart throw, it sounds crazy, but I think I would go with AJ Barner over Elijah Arroyo. I was also watching just the entire passing game offense in general. And obviously you're going to have a lot of wide receivers really close to all the linemen. That's how you get like slot wide receivers on the field. They can still run inside and outside. Typically, Cooper Kupp was lining on the inside more than JSN. So I think that JSN is probably going to play a little bit more outside this season than he did last year, where he was primarily a slot guy, where Cooper Kupp's going to be like kind of the check and release guy. There were some big blocks out of Cooper Kupp. MVS was ahead of Torrey Horton, but don't really care about all that. So.
I think Torrey Horton also missed practice the next day as well. So I wonder if he picked up an injury during this game at the same time. I also think that Jalen Milroe entered this game for a 3rd and 1, which is a quarterback sneak, tush push type thing. So just something to keep in mind in short yardage. And I wonder goal line stuff, if there's going to be a Jalen Milroe package here. Okay. We mentioned it tomorrow. Hayden has PPR rankings. Again, the best way to be ready for those is to hit subscribe to the channel. I think we have a video on this channel every day until NFL kickoff, every single day. So this is the most important time to win your fantasy leagues. And we and us, that is our only goal, to force you, to help you to do it. So hit that subscribe button. TreVeyon Henderson time. I was drafting TreVeyon Henderson happily. Hayden, somehow, some way, I am still above market on him. I have him as running back 17, 40th overall. I even put him ahead of Breathall. And it's for this reason. Like Henderson, when drafted, attached to Rhamondre Stevenson, was thought to be, oh, he's just going to be, as a rookie, a really good passing game player, get him out in space, all that type of stuff. Again, just reading into the usage and what the formations and the personnel groupings were, he was used as a true every down running back on this team, behind fullbacks in some instances, showed the power as a runner that I even liked for them inside of the 10-yard line for a touchdown run. I'm not saying he's going to start the first series, play every single snap for this Patriots offense. What that does show me is that if something does happen to Rhamondre Stevenson in the split backfield, then they do trust TreVeyon Henderson or are auditioning him for a full-time workload. And if that's the case, with also the explosiveness and the pass catching, and by the way, some sick pass pro reps of picking up blitzers off the edge in this one, then we have legitimately like a 3-down complete back in our hands with ludicrous explosiveness.
Yeah, he's been awesome. The preseason, obviously the special teams reps, the pass protection reps, and then obviously the ground game has been awesome. He's beat guys to the edge. That touchdown was impressive, broke through a couple arm tackles. Antonio Gibson did draw the start. Rhamondre didn't play in this one, but TreVeyon did get most of that entire second drive where he did score there. So it's like you said, it's going to be a committee approach, at least for the early parts of the season. It couldn't extend the entire season. Obviously, like him more in full PPR versus half PPR, yada, yada, yada. He looks really good. The Patriots need players that are really good. They're going to give him the football. So yeah, I think I have him like the 5th round. He's being drafted in the 4th round, even in half PPR at this point. The hype is there. He's going to be a very good football player in this league. That's for sure.
Okay, let's talk about some more backfields and specifically the Houston Texans. We know still iffiness and questions about Joe Mixon's ankle or foot. He is still not practicing. Dameon Pierce was held out of this contest against the Carolina Panthers as well. This all points in the direction of Nick Chubb being the starter for this team. And he was a clear starter for this team. Nothing explosive, nothing great, no speed, but he was, picking up the yards that were blocked for him, running between the tackles. Then in one pure passing situation, Dario Gumbawale was the one that checked in immediately. And then Woody Marks started playing a bit more as the game went along.
Yeah, so I was listening to Aaron Wilson, and his latest roster, like 53-man roster projection, had Joe Mixon on the NFI list, which means that he would miss at least the first month of the season. He was initially a little bit more optimistic on the situation. So that's been a little bit of a tweak there. So continue to move Joe Mixon down the rankings. Teams carry 4 running backs typically. That would be Nick Chubb, Dameon Pierce on early downs, Dario Ogunbowale, and Woody Marks on passing downs. Yeah, Nick Chubb was the starter this last week. I've heard other reporters say that Dameon Pierce is pushing Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has not looked very good. So I think if you want to, in your last round, take a shot on either one of them. I'm personally on the Dameon Pierce train for one reason. Nick Caley comes from the McVay offense, the Patriots offense. Those teams were like running power, gaps, runs. That's what Dameon Pierce was good at initially. It was like not built for like the wide zone system. That's why he kind of fell out of favor. We're back to the system that he was good at. He's younger. He's more powerful. He's been effective at times throughout his NFL career. This is like the system for him. I will say the Texans offensive line looked pretty good. I'm not going to expect that to be the entire season, but like the Seahawks, like they were abysmal last year. Like, could they like be functional? And that's all you need. I do think that's possible.
Yeah. Just go from awful to adequate, awful to average. That's all we're asking. I am not trying to put all my chips in the Nick Chubb bandwagon here. I think he's purely a volume sponge. I believe they'll lead off with him at the start of the season, but he's, again, mostly an early season play, if anything. And so I don't want to hype him up too much, but I believe, and I'm not there, I believe, just trying to read the tea leaves a little bit, that Nick Chubb is the odds-on favorite to lead this team in carries early on.
It's been so interesting. I was watching, or I was listening to another Texans reporter from the Chronicle, and he was like, if Joe Mixon was healthy, then Nick Chubb wouldn't make the team. So like this thing is all up in the air. I don't think that Nick Chubb, or I don't think that Joe Mixon at this point is going to be available for week 1. He is still not practicing yet. TikTok. So I do think that all 4 of these guys are going to make the team. Joe Mixon will start on NFI, and then it'll be Nick Chubb or Dameon Pierce. I'm not sure if we're going to be ranking either of those guys very aggressively in week 1, but I think we'll have an answer by week 3, week 4. And then I think both those guys, one of those guys is going to mix into flexes.
Yeah. The Dameon Pierce part of this is fascinating because it's one of those players, as you talked about, behind closed doors for like the final 10 days of practice ahead of week 1. Maybe that's when he gets to run, and we'll have no idea because
for sure
beat writers aren't allowed at practice. I mentioned Woody Marks' name. He's down deep when you look at the usage, but he's actually one of those players that when he gets on the field, he pops to me. Like these jump cuts are quite nice. I thought he was winning on contact more often than one of these like passing down airbacks. So he's, again, one of these long shots or waiver wire names to think of because he's going to go very, very late in your drafts. And I doubt he'll get a lot of work early on.
Yeah, for sure. This is a backfield right for the waiver wire show. Monday Night Football, once the game is over, we'll have the show ready for you guys.
Let's keep talking about the rookie running back trains, and let's go to Pittsburgh because I think it was fair to make the assumption that Caleb Johnson's debut in the preseason was not good because the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line was not creating lanes. As we've talked about, Caleb Johnson is not a creative runner at the line of scrimmage, but then against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, again, if we just look at volume here, 11 carries, 50 yards, including a long run of 14. What'd you see, Hayden?
He looked like he did at Iowa. I thought he had an excellent game. I thought that his decision-making in the first game was very good, and there was no lanes that opened up. And then this one, there were multiple cutback lanes that opened up. There's at least 3 or 4 of them. There was also even a power run right up the middle where he bounced it to the outside. He was responsible for making the corner and the safety miss. And guess what? He ran right by both of those guys. He even caught a pass in this one as well. There was one like blitz situation where he was a little bit late to diagnose it. So I do think that eventually he's going to be the early down guy. Jaylen Warren will be the passing down guy. Is that going to happen in week 1? I'm not sure. He was still the 3rd running back on the roster at this point. So projecting in week 1 for him to be a 15-touch guy, I think that's too rich. But they drafted him to be the early down workhorse, and I thought the tape was pretty good. the longer the play develops, the faster he looks. And that's how it was at Iowa. So when he has the cutback lane, and if the Steelers offensive line can be functional this year, then I think that he's going to have some decently long runs.
You heard about build-up speed. He's the definition of build-up speed.
Yes.
And I understand he might be a 4.5s guy timed, but if he is able to get to the third level and to the sideline, he does have the speed to run away from people. And he's also just about one of the slowest runners in the league, like to the line of scrimmage. But that happens. If it's blocked off, just nothing's going to get there. But again, as you noted, he made the right read on bending it or bouncing it or banging it or cutting it on these outside wide zone things. And that's exactly what they brought him in for. This did ease my concerns a little bit because, like, if you stacked multiple bad ones, it's not just him as a player. Like, if you're drafting Caleb Johnson, you're drafting the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line attached to him.
Yes.
You know, because he has to, once again, to repeat this for a third time, has to have good blocking in order to be a good and productive player. While Jaylen Warren and Arthur Smith has really never trusted him to be an every down player, Jaylen Warren can pass protect like a demon, and Aaron Rodgers is going to love that. Jaylen Warren can catch passes out in the flats. We know that's been good things for Aaron Rodgers. So, like, in games where the Steelers aren't going to be able to block effectively, if there are some, I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Warren outscores Caleb Johnson in those contests.
Yeah, this is going to go back and forth. There's, I think, very clear defined roles once the games really start to matter. I know where this thing's going to end up. In December, Caleb Johnson will be touching the ball 15 times per game. Jaylen Warren will touch the ball a couple times per game, have definitely a role, probably prevent Caleb Johnson from being like the guy you need in a very slow-paced offense. But Caleb Johnson, to me, like, plays like Najee Harris, but like actually has a little bit more like long speed than Najee Harris does. And that's why they drafted him.
Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins backfield, because unfortunately, the worst part of the preseason is injury news from Cameron Wolf of NFL Network. Quote, Achane has a soft tissue lower body injury that will keep him out between days and weeks, according to Mike McDaniel, the head coach. McDaniel indicated he is not concerned about Achane's availability week 1 versus the Indianapolis Colts. We know Achane has gotten banged up all the time in the NFL. Soft tissue stuff, rib things, so on and so forth. This is not what you want to hear for a player that I've been happily ranking as the 13th overall pick. And this kind of is just, again, another straw on top of the camel's back that in a dark, mysterious, uncertain Miami Dolphins preseason and offseason of, are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? And no middle ground between the two.
Right. This is a tough one because I wanted to rank Achane inside like my top 10. He's very good every single time he and Tua are out there. But like this vague soft tissue injury, I'm just like assuming it's a hamstring injury, and I'm not taking Mike McDaniel at his word and just saying that he's going to be for sure ready for week 1. Like, I have no idea. I do not like soft tissue injuries in August. So I moved him down. Like, this is like one where like I don't want to move him down, but it also just like goes to show you how loaded the second round is. Like, if you want to call me crazy for like moving him down like 8 spots because of this, go for it. But like the guys that like went above him are like awesome picks. Like, you can't say anything bad about, like, to me right now, Derrick Henry's healthy. Ashton Genty looks good. Drake London, like, are you saying bad things about Drake London right now? Like, all these healthy guys that were like pretty close to just as good as picks of Achane. So I did move him down like towards like the middle to back end of the second round because of this hamstring injury. Again,
we'll go through this in tomorrow's video, but let's talk through that a little bit more, because he went from, let's say, roughly the 13th overall player to behind the likes of Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, who are also runners that we really liked, but they were going towards the middle to mostly end of the part of round 2. Fair?
Yeah. Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, like Ladd McConkey, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, like that whole range. Like, name the bad pick that in that range. Like, is the one that maybe has some injury issues, like potentially one that is not the ultimate target at this point? Like, there's just more risk with him than a lot of the other second rounders. So what's your risk profile? He can finish as the RB2 overall this year at the same time. Like, that's the second round for you.
The other part of this is the backup running backs, because Jalen Wright has, let's say, not impressed during his preseason work so far. He's getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage all the time. He has been running as the direct backup, as the running back 2, even pony personnel stuff when Achane was on the field in week 1. The other part of that conversation is that whenever someone like Ollie Gordon gets on the field, he is productive. He is running through tackles. He is running physical. He is making plays after contact and after the catch. So could we even get to a part that prior to the season, Ollie Gordon flips someone like Jaylen Wright? Or is this the case where Jaylen Wright gets the opportunities as the backup or even as a spot starter? And if he fails, then that's when Ollie Gordon pops in.
That's where I'm at with this. I will say this. Jaylen Wright, he's fast. He doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't run with power. So, like, how am I scoring the fantasy points? He just has to be ripping off long touchdowns. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with him. So, among, like, the RB2s, like, I get it. The Dolphins can go crazy, be top 10 in points. If Etienne misses time, like, I like drafting backups to running backs that are already dealing with injuries. So, I like Jaylen Wright in that. Do I like what I've seen from Jaylen Wright, the football player? Not really. Was he my favorite prospect? Not really. He's, like, good in this system, but, like, probably in, like, the 5 to 10 touch per game guy. Like, you can't throw him the football.
Let's spin in a positive direction with the next backfield. Christian McCaffrey is freaking healthy. The downside, no other 49ers running back is healthy at this moment. Again, let's go through this. Isaac Guerrero, DNP shoulder injury. Jordan James, DNP finger injury. Patrick Taylor got 4 carries for -6 yards. Keyshawn Vaughn dealing with an injury. In the same game, Corey Kiner goes down with an injury. Jeff Wilson is the only other healthy running back for Christian McCaffrey. If people tuned in to my favorite pick in every round, I went in a tirade saying, please don't draft scared. Please draft Christian McCaffrey. Maybe they are selling the souls of all these other backs and just giving them spirit bomb style to CMC in order for him to finally have at least one more final healthy season. And I want to reap the rewards. I want to reap the benefits of it. This remains why Christian McCaffrey is a top 5 fantasy asset in my mind this year.
Yeah, this is the Shanahan sacrifice, I guess. But I'm right there with you. I've got him 6th overall, ahead of ADP. I want pieces of him. The first round's loaded. He has a little bit more risk than the other guys. He has just as much upside, if not more upside, than everybody else out there. Unfortunately, though, Dominic Pooney, your guy, guard,
Correct.
a very good player, suffered an injury. So they have no depth. They lost multiple kind of backups or their left guard this offseason. So the 49ers offensive line does make me a little bit nervous. Shanahan has also schemed around it a ton, but Pooney is probably their second best offensive lineman. And he went down.
Yeah, he was a 3rd-round rookie, instantly one of the best contributors along the offensive line for them. PCL injury, out multiple weeks. But again, please, even with these question marks, please leave your drafts with at least one San Francisco 49er on your team, if not 2, if not 3. I'd even push it to 4. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like, including in this game, if we can talk about it, Ricky Pearsall just earning the damn trust from Brock Purdy. I mean, he played like 8 snaps, had 3 targets, had about 50-ish yards. It was end breakers. It was stuff off motion. It was anticipation routes. I've been all the way in on Ricky Pearsall this summer, and I think he's one of those players that the momentum is going to build in a lot of these home leagues and go maybe about 1 to 2 rounds where he was versus a month ago.
Yeah, definitely. So I got him at 65th overall, right next to Juwan Jennings. Guys like around him, Steph Diggs, Rome Odunze, Chris Olave. So he's going to be a good football player for the 49ers. What was encouraging about this one was that Brock Purdy released that pass going over the middle. Lots of anticipation on that. That was like the type of throw that they did not connect with this past season. But turns out when you're not, suffering a gunshot wound, you can actually work on some of those timing routes. So yeah, draft them all.
I'm going to rewind a little bit back to the Miami Dolphins. Okay. With the uncertainty of where this current offense is, we talked about with the running backs. We've listened all offseason about Tyreek Hill. Not that something's going to happen with Tyreek Hill prior to the season, but does this at all theoretically shift your opinion on what the potential ceiling could be for someone like Jaylen Waddle and where he's being drafted at this moment?
Well, this offseason, you trade away Johnny Smith. That's like 20% of the targets. Devon Achane is now dealing with a soft tissue injury. Tyreek Hill there's been like some very weird reporting around his situation. He is a trade candidate based off the contract. Like there is an avenue, like all of a sudden the Jaylen Waddle takeoff is here. I know he's a good football player. I don't know what happened last year. They did not use him as much as they should have. But he's put out too much good tape for me to kind of ignore. Obviously, he's been dealing with tons of injuries by himself, but he's an off-season winner. Like everyone around him is hurt or gone. That's a good sign.
One final running back I wanted to hit on is RJ Harvey. Started this game. J.K. Dobbins did not play. RJ Harvey, 3 carries, 18 yards, an 8-yard rushing score. Straight up the middle, Hayden. Straight up the middle. Mm-hmm. He took that coaching that Sean Payton gave him after week 1, bouncing everything to the outside. Bang, bang, boom. We get a score. Sure, he looks short. He does not look small. He looks stout, like a fire hydrant. RJ Harvey remains my guy. I am still somehow above consensus and the market on him as my running back 18 at this moment. I am loving the RJ Harvey experience right now.
J.K. Dobbins forgot his helmet because he sat with the other starters. So that was a win for Benjamin Albright on this one. Yeah, the touchdown was good. It was the inside zone stuff that he was used to, right up the middle. That's an effective way to use them. I have no idea how the touches are going to be deployed between Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. It's kind of flip-flopped from reporter to reporter, week to week, game to game at this point. He's got juice. He's going to catch some passes in this offense. The offensive line is good. Ascending quarterback, Sean Payton, all that stuff is good to go. Just like, how good is RJ Harvey going to be versus J.K. Dobbins? And I'm guessing that Dobbins is probably going to have the pass down role just because he's pass protected in the NFL before. But other than that, everything else is up for grabs.
Yeah, my ranking does not indicate what the standing is going to be week 1, week 2, week 3, but it's more second half, 2/3 final part of the season. Because as you said, the starters, quote unquote, did not play in this game. Bo Nix did not play. J.K. Dobbins did not play. Wide receivers like Cortland Sutton, Devon Vele, Marvin Mims did not play in this game. Troy Franklin did. And the other one that I wanted to bring up was Pat Bryant, who you and I were the only people prior to the draft that actually did a Pat Bryant video. I loved his fluidity. I loved his hands. I loved his movement, not the fastest, but again, just the body control that he has. He showcased all of this. Pat Bryant looked like a legit NFL wide receiver. I think he's another one that will earn reps and earn chances as the season goes along, because he did not look like a rookie out there in my mind.
Yeah, he has always been a big fluid guy that could block and can kind of make some downfield plays. So I like him. I just don't think that he's redraft or best ball related. He's a dynasty guy at this point. I think we can maybe on Stats versus Film highlight a couple.
It's a long season.
It is, but it's also the Sean Payton rotation. And like, even if he is like the number 3 wide receiver, like, is it going to be a number 3 wide receiver, like in a rotation with everybody else? So yeah, he looks good though. So I'm happy for him.
Okay. Before we go any further, the best way for you to prepare for your home league, other than subscribing to this channel, is to go and draft on Underdog. It allows you to figure out the pockets of each round with running backs or wide receivers, different positions that you want to pick from, or the 2-for-1, saying that, oh, I'd rather skip on running back in round 4 because I like the wide receivers there in comparison to round 7 or round 8. Again, it gets you the reps, it gets you the work, and allows you to beat up on your buddies in your home league. So click the link in the description down below. Use promo code The Show. If you've never tried Best Ball, now's the perfect time to do it. We are literally launching new tournaments on like a daily or weekly basis. So go and draft on the Dog app on Underdog today. Should we talk some quarterbacks?
Let's do it.
Okay. Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, first action in a Ben Johnson offense. What did you like? What did you see?
He can just really spin the football. Like, there's multiple reps where like his feet weren't either completely underneath him or there was a little bit of traffic in front of him. And I thought that he was delivering some strikes. Rome Odunze, that drop really tilted me, but the entire offense looks good. That was a nice pass to Colson Loveland over the middle. Obviously, Olamide Zaccheaus had the touchdown against man coverage. It just like looked like a functional offense. Like, there was nothing like groundbreaking. There was nothing like Ben Johnson like reinvented something. It was just like, it looked functional. The offensive line gave him a little bit more time. Caleb Williams was like not doing like the super robotic thing that he was this past season. He's also like not like running backwards all the time. There was that one blitz that he recognized where like, I think maybe last year he probably would have been a little bit late to recognizing that. It would have been a sack. On this one, he was able to scramble out, at least get a pass attempt off. So I thought everything looked good in this offense, and it makes me optimistic that the Bears are going to be fun to watch this season. I still don't know who to draft at wide receiver and tight end, all that type of stuff though.
The robotic stuff is exactly what stood out to me, that for an offense that looked totally disjointed on multiple occasions last season, what I love most in this game was the rhythm of it, was Caleb getting to the line of scrimmage, not looking uncertain at all, just being in command, confident, eyes were where they needed to go post snap. I mean, it felt like everything was open quite frequently, but that's exactly what you want, even if it's against, backups and backups on top of that. But look, as long as the process is seamless, they're getting to the line of scrimmage with plenty of time. He's doing the checks and calls that he needs to. Like, reading between the lines and behind the scenes of this stuff, it was a brutal start to the camp for everyone involved. But these last 5 or 6 days, things have really turned around. And that's what happens. Like, that's what tough coaching is, especially when many people of the offense, not just the quarterback, picked up a bunch of bad habits last year. You have to break those. You have to fix those. So if this is the only thing that we see from the Chicago Bears in the preseason, and then we get to week 1, as we've said all the time, we are not selling our Caleb Williams stock at all.
Hell no.
And for the people that maybe did, it might look foolish 5-6 games into the season, because I never bought into this. Caleb Williams is not a Ben Johnson-esque quarterback. The hell with that. He absolutely can be. And I'm not even talking about the actual production element of what this looked like. Just the motion, the consistency element of it all is what stood out to me.
In terms of just the rotation around him, Rhamondre, DJ Moore in 2 wide receiver sets. When they went to 11 personnel, it was Olamide Zaccheaus ahead of Luther Burden. Luther Burden had a phenomenal game, blocking and receiving, so that was very good for him. But they love some Olamide Zaccheaus, and he had the long touchdown in this one. So I think probably more notably was just the tight end usage. Colston Loveland was out there for 9 of 14 snaps with the starters. He lost 5 snaps to Cole Kmet in 1 tight end sets. But there was a couple reps where Colston Loveland was either manufactured touches or he was the backside isolated player in 3-by-1 sets. And you only do that when you know you have a dude at tight end that can do that. So I thought there were some flashes of this. Is he going to be a top 12 tight end week 1? Probably not. By the end of the season, did Colston Loveland look good? I thought he did.
Yeah, the Bears ran 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, like 4 of 8 of the opening snaps. The Raiders were number 1 in the NFL last year with like 35.7% of their offensive snaps out of 12 personnel. I wonder if the Bears will be number 1 this year, and how high can that number be if both the guys stay healthy?
Yeah,
could it be close to 45%? Could it be around 43%? Because they both made plays in the opening 2 snaps of this game. On the Luther Burden note, I mean, the dude like caved down the right side of the offensive line for 2 touchdown runs.
Yep.
If you block, you get the rock. I'm just telling you, Hayden, the post by rookie bump for Luther Burden is going to hit really nice.
Yeah,
it's going to hit really, really nice. I'm a big Olamide Zaccheaus fan as well. By the way, we got no running back clues in this one. DeAndre Swift did not play. Roschon Johnson did not play. And even Kyle Monangai did not participate. They were literally trotting out running backs in the starting lineup that I'd never even heard of.
Same.
Now, Kevin Fishbane, Robert Mays of The Athletic did promote some broadcast buzz on Monangai behind the scenes. So look, I wouldn't be surprised if he has just taken the job from Roschon Johnson once week 1 rolls around, and it's DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai in this backfield.
Yeah, I think this is also a team that's ripe for a Brian Robinson or somebody else like that too. So this is, I think we're just going to enter the next couple of weeks and not know exactly how the Bears situation is going to unfold. I don't think they can give DeAndre Swift the goal line role. So I've not been drafting him a ton. And I don't know who's going to have that goal line role. I wish I knew, because that person's going to be fantasy involved, but I have no idea who it is.
Look, I'm not suggesting you take him in your redraft leagues, but I am above consensus on Kyle Monangai right now. I understand the pass pro stuff has not been great, but as another 2nd, 7th round running back with he and Bill Krosky-Merritt, why not 2? Why not 2 in the same season? Okay, let's talk through quarterback battles and quarterback competitions. Because the Indianapolis Colts, as of listening and recording this video, still have not named a starting quarterback. All right? They might have a new one by the time that this is posted. I will say the beat writers around this team have pulled quotes of Shane Steichen after he benched Anthony Richardson and are comparing them to what Shane Steichen said after this preseason game about naming a starter, that he's looking for the process, the sequencing, the consistency, all those words. And now they're all pointing to Daniel Jones earning this job as a starting quarterback. Does that match what you have seen on the field?
I don't think either one of them blew me away. Anthony Richardson looked better this last game. He had that one incredible throw where he was going left against cover 1 and just threw a huge slot fade right in the money. He's done that in pros. He's also taken a hit that he should not be taking out there. So I thought he looked a little bit better. But Daniel Jones is completing some passes. I think both these guys are going to start. It's whether it's week 1 or week 17, both these guys are going to matter. If you're drafting Warren, Pittman, Downs, you would rather it be Daniel Jones. If you're drafting a quarterback, and for us to actually watch the games, I would rather it be Anthony Richardson. So I don't know.
Would you rather it be Daniel Jones? I mean, again, I'll repeat this phrase. I don't think anyone has benefited more by not playing football in 9 months than Daniel Jones. Like, he's just not good right now.
Sure. Yeah, but if we're doing the PPR scam thing that like Gardner Minshew did in this offense a couple years ago, you can live with that in fantasy.
It kind of makes me nervous for the entire Colts situation if Daniel Jones gets starts on this team. You know, like, are they going to be a good football team with Daniel Jones as their quarterback?
I agree. That's why they're like, these guys are like wide receiver 45 and 46. Downs dealing with a little bit of an injury. I did like just like wake up. Sometimes you make fun of me for sometimes waking up to these tight ends and having a new take. Why Tyler Warren should not be going after these wide receivers. I mean,
correct. Tyler Warren should be at the top of this group.
That's where I'm at with this. So I moved Warren into like the 90s or 80s, somewhere in that range. And I moved Downs and Pittman after. I wanted to like really go all in on Downs, but like you're dealing with an injury and we still don't know who the quarterback situation is going to be. And like Tyler Warren's playing every single snap. Like it would be one thing if like Tyler Warren was out there for like 75% of the snaps and in comes Mo Alley-Cox. It's like, nope, in comes Mo Alley-Cox right next to Tyler Warren. And there he goes again. So just draft Warren, I guess.
Okay, well, let's go down another rung and talk about the New Orleans Saints quarterback scenario, because Tyler Shough got the start in this game. Spencer Rattler came in a bit later on. It was the inverse, as we know, in preseason week 1. To me, the third snap of the game showed the exact concern that I had with Tyler Shough, that there's a free rusher off a blitz on the right side. He has just zero creativity. He literally trips under his own feet, falls backwards in a hilarious move. Then the very next snap, he throws it under pressure to his right guard, and that equals 3rd and 30. Again, I understand that later on it got a bit better. First read throws, he was making them, but he just has like zero creativity to his game at all. And in the NFL, when plays come down to and games come down to 6 or 7 snaps, I don't know, and this is pretty obvious, if he's someone that you would want to even put in that situation.
Right. And I don't know if Spencer Rattler is either.
Right.
I think we're going to see both of these guys. It's not going to really matter. I think they're probably in the same tier of quarterbacks at this point. A couple of like Saints notes that stood out to me was Kelvin Banks, their left tackle, has been awesome. He just like moves really well. People thought should be a guard. Well, he's just out there at left tackle and looks really good. That's a win for the Saints. But to me, like the more notable thing was Chris Olave and Rashee Shaheed both caught 2 passes within, let's say, 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. There was a Chris Olave screen, which he never gets. Rashee Shaheed was just kind of an outlet against like all these like clear routes. I looked back last year, they combined for 8 of those receptions within 2 air yards of the line of scrimmage. They each had 2 this first half of this game with Kellen Moore. And that's been like a staple of the Kellen Moore offense. So Shaheed and Olave have been like 18 yards per catch guys, but nothing manufactured their entire career. That's been the Clint Kubiak offense. And then in the first half, they each get those opportunities. Like, I think we're going to see both of these guys just catch like 2-3 more passes per game. The yards after the catch numbers could go up. The yards per reception numbers will go down, but you're going to have like some level of consistency. And I think that Rashee Shaheed can be like a pretty good yards after the catch player. So I thought like that was promising for both of them, that like we just might see more receptions in this offense.
This is what I envision for the Saints offense. A lot of whiteboard manufactured first read things based on pre-snap tells that Kellen Moore has drawn up. That is going to mean a lot more underneath stuff, and then diagram a few shot plays over the top. That Tyler Shough did make that one throw, over top of the trailing linebacker and allowed his, I think, tight end to go up and get it. So have a couple of those per game after kind of sucking them in, a la the Bo Nix stuff a little bit last year. Albeit Tyler Shough doesn't have nearly the mobility that Bo Nix does. That's what I envision here. I mean, this is dangerous territory to live in. I am still ahead of market on Chris Olave and Rashee Shaheed, like 5 spots ahead at the wide receiver spot on Chris Olave. And then with Rashee Shaheed, not as high as you are at wide receiver 44, but I do have him as wide receiver 50.
Every single time I watch Rashee Shaheed, he looks good.
He's good.
I don't think there's that much of a difference, if at all, between him and Olave on film. Like, he's so damn good.
And then even I thought Kendre Miller as the clear backup running back for Alvin Kamara. Finally, we saw some sweet broken tackles from some really good balance. Like, some of them didn't go anywhere, but man, he was, 1v1 in the lane or the hole or to the edge. And he was creating on his own, which was really, really good to see, especially if Nick Underhill is correct and that Alvin Kamara, doesn't want to top that 180 carry threshold.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think that Kendrick Miller is like the only team RB2 that's like not being drafted on underdog. There's no reason for that. Especially like Alvin Kamara could in theory get traded at some point too. But yeah, he's in the top 200 for me. So he's draftable.
Okay, let's talk some rookie quarterbacks then. Jaxson Dart got his second action in the preseason. This was after Russell Wilson played a good amount in this game. What'd you see from the Giants offense and the changes and the alterations between the two?
So Russ starts and he has that 60-yard pass over the top where he checked into it after like seeing the rotation from the safety coming down. Beautiful pass. Like didn't even have to step into it. Like the arm strength for Russell Wilson has been the exact same as it was 10 years ago. Like when he throws the ball over the top, it's going exactly where it needs to be. That's the good stuff. What was interesting to me was the entire offense, like the scheme, not just the play calling, the entire offense, the second Jaxson Dart got in there looked completely different. And they were in no huddle. They were really fast. It was like getting to the point where Evan Neal, who's like now playing guard, is like on his hands and knees because he's so tired. Jaxson Dart, I'll be honest, didn't have to do a whole lot. There was a lot of screens, little quick hitters, hitches. But that said, every ball was right on the money. He had like 13 straight completions, had the little fake pitch, throw the ball over the middle. It looked like the scam Ole Miss offense, which we don't typically see in the NFL. But if Jaxson Dart goes in there, and that's what Brian Daboll wants to do, like these two guys have they're like in love with each other. They giggle like just like even talking about each other. If we get Jaxson Dart in there and they're going to run this fast-paced offense, is Malik Neighbors going to catch like 12 passes per game in this? Like that was like to me what stood out. I was like the Russell Wilson offense is one thing, and then the Jaxson Dart offense was like the most fantasy-friendly offense that you could possibly dream up.
I think that's an interesting dynamic to live in, though, as a play caller, as someone who practices, because then you almost have to segment the different. Look, I'm not at these scrimmages or anything, but like if the Russell Wilson one, this is exactly what Dan Dugan said. That is a completely different offense than we've seen most of camp. When Russell Wilson is running the show, Jaxson clearly very comfortable with the up-tempo pace from Ole Miss, just good, quick decisions repeatedly. But then at the same time, we've seen from their beat writers, he hasn't gotten like any first team snaps in preseason work at all. And that might be this reason, if it's two different offenses and they don't want him to practice the Russell Wilson one, which by the way, they threw him in for like a random 2nd and 7 in this game to like throw the tight end screen to Theo Johnson, because like you're saying, he and Brian Daboll have a love fest and Brian Daboll wants him to be on his toes and ready for any moment and stuff.
So weird, man.
I mean, Hayden, as the number one fan of the Russell Wilson fan club, this can't give you a good feeling of Russell Wilson's chances if Brian Daboll is already like fetishizing and fantasizing what a Jaxson Dart led offense can be, and it's the polar opposite of what it is for a starting quarterback.
I like Russ. I love Jaxson Dart. I have him 6 overall in my ranking. Like, there's nobody higher on Jaxson Dart than me. So like this is a win-win situation. If the offense looks good, I'm winning regardless. I think if I had to like guess what the situation is going to be, I'm going to guess the Giants are going to be more competitive than people think because that defensive line looks awesome. Russell Wilson looks fine enough. And that Russell's probably going to start a lot of the season. And Brian Daboll is probably talking to the ownership and being like, we got this guy for this next season, maybe down the stretch here, and that Russell Wilson's going to play a bunch in this one. I think that's probably their plan right now. If Russell's throwing too many interceptions or inaccuracies pop up, then sure. But I think they have like a pretty functional situation right now. And that's not even like getting to Jameis as their quarterback 3. I thought that Dart and Russ both played well.
Schedule's really difficult, and I think Vegas disagrees. They're at like 5.5 or 6.5 wins this season.
Yeah. So. If I was going to take one win total, higher, lower, you pick it across, I think I would take the Giants higher on wins. That defensive line is so good.
Did you get to watch Cam Ward at all with the Tennessee Titans this weekend? What'd you see?
I mean, it's literally this exact same tape over and over and over again.
Yeah.
He has like awesome throws. I don't know how he's like making them. Like every single throw is like from like about right here. His feet aren't always set, but the ball is on an absolute missile. So I think it's gonna be a fun watch. I think it could be, you don't know like how much this is gonna be like on the Kaleb Williams like rookie season, or like are we gonna get like immediate Jameis Winston type stuff, or are we gonna like absolutely just be dime after dime after dime here? So I think this one can go a bunch of different ways. It was good to see Alec Ayumanor like actually mixed in a little bit earlier on, but I think it's going to be a lot of Calvin Ridley. And I thought this is the exact Cam Ward air raidy, just throw the ball around the yard type of offense.
I thought he was really missing Calvin Ridley in this game. Like Ayumanor had some plays, some of the other guys did. Gunnar Helm came down with a sweet contested grab down the seam, just like he did at Texas with his body control, but they were missing like that one difference maker and the one guy for, Callahan to build the ship around in terms of the primary reads in the passing game. I understand that people have gotten snake bitten by Calvin Ridley in the past. I just keep wanting to move him higher and higher. It's just like that area of wide receivers I really like, like anywhere from Tedero McMillan to George Pickens to even Travis Hunter. I have as wide receiver 23, even if he's going as wide receiver 31. Then you get into like the Calvin Ridley's and the Jaylen Waddles territory. Like love the wide receivers from like, even if I rank them differently than consensus, wide receiver 20 to wide receiver 30.
Yeah, it's like, to me, the only part of the draft I don't like right now is like the end of round 3, like the 4 or 5 turn, like all the running backs and the receivers in that range. So to me, it always just comes back to like, the elite quarterbacks in round 3, and then I can kind of find guys that I like throughout the rest of the draft.
I also noticed I don't think people have reacted enough to this high ankle sprain for Tajay Spears and like where they are taking Tony Pollard at this time. Like he's still going around running back 25. This is such an improved offensive line, even if Dan Moore left this past game, that they have good starters at 5 spots. And now Tony Pollard is just totally going to own this backfield. I'm at least 3 or 4 running back spots ahead than consensus on Tony Pollard this season.
Yeah, I mean, he was good last year in a terrible offense.
Speaking of running backs, I should have mentioned this with the New York Giants. I'm also had a consensus on Tyron Tracy at this point. I think he's going to be the clear starter for this team with Cam Scatterbo injured. He did play the vast majority of the first team snaps with Russell Wilson. I did want to mention that he had the first chance from inside the 5-yard line when they got there. And then second down, they did bring in Devin Singletary as like a vulture to get that touchdown. So I did want to mention that too.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of actually a big deal. Tyron Tracy should have scored a touchdown there, and he didn't. They took him out. And Cam Scatterbo's got 10, 15 pounds on both of those guys. So I'm not writing off Cam Scatterbo. I know he hasn't been out there right now, but I do think that he catches passes and goal line back, and that's
just a lot of time to make up.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't think that you were starting either one of these guys early on. At least I hope not. Like, I don't think that'd be a good sign if you're starting either of these guys in fantasy. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, let's talk Dillon Gabriel. Even though prior to this podcast, Joe Flacco, zero surprise from me, was named starter of the Cleveland Browns. Dillon Gabriel did get the start in this past game. When you went back and watched that one, since we went so in depth on Shedeur Sanders, I feel like we should give the same amount of respect for Dillon Gabriel here too.
Sure. The pick 6, he should not have thrown that ball, but the guy who was actually to blame was freaking Deontay Johnson, who was starting on the other side of the field.
He's not going to make the team.
He's going to be cut. We might not see Deontay Johnson ever again. Like, if he can't make the Browns, it's pretty much over. So,
well, and that was unfortunate. Gave a 3-year guaranteed contract to Isaiah Bond on top of this too.
For sure. And there's we have Quentin Johnston. The freaking Browns cannot stay out of.
Well, let's talk through it all. Insane. Okay, let's start with Dillon Gabriel. What'd you think of his game and like the offense and how different it was with him at the helm versus Shedeur Sanders? Because I asked this even if Joe Flacco's in the starter, because to be honest, I expect both these guys to get starts at some point this season.
For sure. Dillon Gabriel's just arm strength is so underwhelming to me that I don't even know what you would do with this. This would kind of just be like a very kind of quick hitting offense to me. I thought Shedeur Sanders, they gave him a lot more variety of things. I think Shedeur Sanders has some obvious areas where he's better than Dillon Gabriel. I thought that Dillon Gabriel played fine enough. The pick 6 was unfortunate, but like I said, 2 guys ran to the exact same spot and neither of them wanted to catch the ball. So yeah, I'm kind of unmoved. I wasn't a huge Dillon Gabriel fan pre-draft. He can be a backup, but I think the best offense that they would provide would be Flacco or Kenny Pickett over these other rookies.
Well, I doubt that Kenny Pickett makes it to this team, but that's just a projection that I have. Yeah, I mean, Dillon Gabriel's a point and shoot shooter, he's exactly what Kevin Stefanski wants, probably in a backup quarterback where, hey, this is the read based on the pre and post snap tells. And when you hit your back foot, you don't have the strongest arm and you're not the most mobile, but once you hit your back foot and just fire it in there, cool. He can't do much more than that to me.
Right.
And he's going to get figured out quite quickly. But if it comes down to, and it will at this point, Joe Flacco, either the team not performing well or Joe Flacco getting injured, who do you think Kevin Stefanski turns to? Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel?
It's probably Gabriel. They just drafted him higher.
Probably. Yep.
That's.
I think it's that simple.
This, they like Gabriel more than we do.
Okay, let's talk Quinshon Judkins. I posted a small video on this, I think on Friday when all this news went down out of nowhere, which seems to be how the NFL and company does news at this moment. The charges against him were dropped because there was no video evidence, according to police, of this happening. And then video evidence that no injuries were on the accuser during the time in that 3-day span of when this was reported. So Quinshon Judkins has no charges against him. Quinshon Judkins is still, though, unsigned to this team. It is notable that this game for the Browns, many starters sat out, including Dylan Sampson and Harold Fannin. I just want to throw that in there, along with David Njoku and a few others. With that said, from a fantasy angle, is there anything here for Quinshon Judkins? What should people be expecting?
Yeah, I mean, this was better than this thing not being kind of just dismissed. That said, the NFL does not have the same bar to clear in their own investigation than the actual legal system. There is precedent of players who have been accused of domestic violence related issues who have served suspensions. The baseline of that is 6 games. In the initial police report, there was bruising on the alleged victim here for days after. So it really comes down to how long is this investigation going to take? We saw that Judge Sue Robinson, who's overseeing the Rashee Rice stuff, she's too busy to get to the Rashee Rice stuff until September 30th. Is she too busy to get to the Quinshon Judkins stuff until September 30th? That seems like it's a potential thing. I think that he's probably going to miss at least 6 games no matter what because of what's happened. And if they don't hear his case until after the 6 games, then they kind of would just count that as the suspension. So he's probably going to play this year, but at the same time, the Browns have not been in contact with him reportedly. And it probably goes back to the guaranteed contracts of the early 2nd round picks where, like, if you're the Browns, you don't want to fully guarantee this guy. But Quinshon Judkins looking around, like all the other players that were drafted right next to me, they got guaranteed money. So Schefter said that this thing could not get signed until the investigation's over, and nobody knows when that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm just a total avoid on this Browns backfield. Look, if Quinshon Judkins or Dylan Sampson are the ones that make me lose my fantasy season, so be it. Like, if Dylan Sampson gets starts early in the season, great. It's on the lowest projected offense in the league. Then if something does happen to Quinshon Judkins in terms of things get settled, he gets his contract after the 2nd round contract stuff, blah, 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 blah. If he comes back, it just muddies a bad situation. So I just don't want a part of it. Like, it's not even in my train of thought. I know some people out there might be staring at these names in your drafts and, oh, they keep falling, I should scoop up the value. It's not even in my train of thought when I log into draft rooms right now with the Browns backfield.
Yep. I would rather have the Cam Scatabo types. I would rather have the Isaac Guerrero types out there. I think that Quinshon Judkins is going to mix in there eventually, but even that's not fully guaranteed. So in general, it's like good news that this thing's just not going to be there's not going to be a trial set next January and we're not going to see him at all. But is it awesome he's going to play the entire season? That's also not happening. And like you said, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns here. And there's another running back, and Jerome Ford is a capable guy. So
right. The other part of this, after our video on Thursday, was more information came out about Rashee Rice. It wasn't just that he is going to be able to play the first 4 games of the season. It's why. And like you said, the why is the intermediary judge is coming in. But then the other layer of this is, it sounds like, according to multiple reports, that the NFL is pushing for a gigantic suspension, around 10 games per se. And, Rashee Rice and the NFLPA wouldn't settle on that. They wanted closer to probably the 4 to 6 game range. And so if the NFL gets their way, then this entire conversation of, well, if Rashee Rice misses 7, 8 games, and that goes into your fantasy playoffs, the 10 games means he's completely irrelevant after the first 4 weeks. So while I believed that Rashee Rice could still have been a solid pick for you if it was going to be a 4 to 6 game suspension, now that it's probably closer to 8 to 10 games, I have drastically changed my tune on that, because yes, 4 to 2 games is a major difference for a player if you're going to draft him or not.
Yeah, definitely. I had the same exact thing. At the end of the day, he was initially charged with, I think it was 8 felonies.
And it's on camera?
So, it's on camera, and he ran away from the scene, and everybody knew about it. So I'm not that surprised that the NFL is saying, we're aiming for double-digit games. We'll see if in arbitration this settles. I think the range, I would put it between maybe 6 to 12. He's not getting fewer than 6 at this point. I think maybe they make at 8 games, 10 games, something like that. And then we're getting pretty close to the start of the fantasy playoffs. So, and that's when
I still think when he's on the field, Rashee Rice is like the focal point of this passing game. Like things flow through him over that middle of the field area because he's dominant after the catch. He's just not going to be on the field as much as everyone anticipated in June, July, early parts of August until this like final detail emerged after the 4-game announcement was made.
It's a very crazy situation that just like shows you how unpredictable the NFL's own investigations can be. I still can't get over that. Like the arbitrator that they're appointing is too busy to get this thing. I mean, we're talking about the NFL. What's she busy with? I mean, my God.
One final layer to this. I did want to bring up Xavier Worthy because he's being selected as wide receiver 20, if not later, depending on your platform. And because of this Rashee Rice news and because of where Xavier Worthy accumulated so much of his production down the stretch in the same area of the field, you and I are like 5 to 6 spots ahead of market on Xavier Worthy just at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I got him like right in that end of round 3 range where I don't love any of the clicks, but man, like Xavier Worthy was getting very good by the end of the season. It was notable. They both played for a couple snaps in here in the preseason game. All 3 of Xavier Worthy's routes were downfield routes, like big clear out post routes. So that was with Rashee Rice in the lineup. Obviously with Rashee Rice out of the lineup, that's going to be completely changed. So yeah, second year, former first rounders with the fastest NFL 40-time attached to Patrick Mahomes. Sounds like a good click to me. Also, Shough, Travis Kelce, I mean, somebody's got to catch some passes. If we're talking about 8 to 10 game suspension, like is it Hollywood Brown? This is the league's most pass heavy offense since Mahomes has gotten in there. Like I moved Travis Kelce up right next to Sam Laporta. Like someone's catching passes. It's not Hollywood Brown and these other guys.
This happens when you're an hour and 15 minutes into a recording, but we do have 2 news updates just real quick. I don't think we have to change any of our conversations with them. But first, Mike McDaniel has admitted that Devon Achane's injury is a calf injury, not a hamstring injury, but the dreaded calf injury that has ruined some fantasy seasons previously. And then Mike Garafolo has reported that Brian Robinson and the Commanders have mutually agreed to not play in a preseason game against the Bengals amid trade speculation. So again, I've already moved Austin Eckler and Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt ahead of B-Rob. This almost assures that not only is a trade possible, but if a trade doesn't happen, then I don't think he's on the team.
Yeah, I would guess the trade's materializing, but
because that's tonight. That game's tonight.
Yeah, I don't know where it would be to. Cowboys, could it be the Dolphins?
Would it be in division? I doubt they do it in division.
Brian Robinson. I mean, if you didn't think he's very good, the Bears, the Dolphins, there's teams. So don't completely bury Brian Robinson, but most likely is if you're drafting tonight, where his ADP is on the default rankings is way higher than where he should be. So you're probably not going to get him anyways. Quick, I saw something on Devon Achane too, that this is quote preventative in nature, but it's also not going to practice this next week. So like,
yeah, there's still multiple weeks left again,
for sure.
Still multiple weeks left, but we'll see. Speaking of injuries, the saga of Matthew Stafford has taken a new turn. He walked out to practice earlier today. He's throwing passes to Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. He is slightly jogging on, rolling out and throwing these passes on the move. Does him at least showing and wearing cleats and pads alter any of your opinion on Matthew Stafford and the rest of this Rams offense?
Marginally at best. I mean, we're talking about it's August 18th. He hasn't been hit yet. What happens when he gets hit?
Right.
What happens just if this thing locks up?
This is an unanswerable question, right?
Yes.
Like if he didn't practice at all in the preseason until things went behind closed doors, I would be understanding if people like just were so scared to draft Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Him at least showing his face at practice and being on the field at least one time, maybe more times in the future, does give some safeness and some certainty to it. But then we're talking about week 1. We're not talking about week 7, week 11, week 14, week 16, when it's your championship. And he's had to do all this stuff before a freaking finger was laid on to him. So now I am confident he plays week 1. I still have questions if he's playing in week 7, week 11, all that type of stuff. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. This is a disc nerve issue. Guess what? You can't predict how your disc and your nerve is going to react to anything. No one has any confidence in anything here. That's reality. I will just say Jimmy G, once again, better than most quarterbacks.
Stetson Bennett, bro.
Bennett put some. I mean, he had an awesome touchdown pass and then one of the funniest interceptions you will ever see. But yeah, it was
okay. If Matthew Stafford misses 10 games this year, okay, I think Stetson Bennett gets at least one start this season.
That's totally fair. I'm not sure how much Jimmy G wants to play. How is Jimmy G feeling about? I'm sure Jimmy G was like Stafford. He's rooting for Stafford's back more than anybody.
I know you watched this Rams preseason game too. Any takeaways with like the Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter duo split? Because both those names are available in round 18 right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess fortunately, both looked good. I thought Blake Corum had one of like the best, like just big kind of jump cuts over a lane, and I thought he looked fine. He always makes the correct decision. It just like comes down to how explosive can he be in the NFL level. I think that he's trusted. Jarquez Hunter made multiple awesome runs, and he just like simply has way more juice than Blake Corum does. But I didn't think it was like enough to like jump Blake Corum. So Blake Corum right now is the RB2. If you had to pick one, it would be Blake Corum. But I think both their tape makes me believe that like Kyren Williams is like not going to have the same role because there's just like no need to force that. It made Kyren Williams worse. And I think they have like the second and the third string running back look like NFL contributors. So I think it's going to just be more of a committee and throwing the Matthew Stafford back stuff. Like I'm with you. The Kyren Williams stuff, not my favorite click right now.
Okay. We have to end this before 90 minutes. So let's talk about the other Los Angeles teams real quick with the LA Chargers. Anything you want to say about that wide receiver room? Because Quentin Johnston went down with a massive head injury after bobbling a catch. The safety closed, head hits the turf. Trey Harris finally made his presence known in preseason, coming down with some nice sideline passes down the field. But it certainly looks like the two top wide receivers, Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen.
What's interesting is Quentin Johnston was actually out there in 2 wide receiver sets. Now they used a bunch of 3 wide receivers out there, and that's when Keenan was out there. Keenan and Ladd McConkey rotated from the slot and from out wide. The second that Quentin Johnston left, which was very early in that game, it was KLS who came in and directly replaced him. So Quentin Johnston's like their X receiver. KLS is the backup X receiver. And then Trey Harris was still the 5th wide receiver to enter. He was playing the Z role, which is unfortunate for him because both Keenan and Ladd McConkey are ahead of him for that spot. So Trey Harris to me is like remains very buried. He made that great sideline catch. I also thought that he still doesn't look very fast. And to me, KLS just moves a lot differently. Obviously playing wide receivers more than just athletic skills, but I don't know how you can draft Trey Harris right now. Like he seems very buried, and I would just draft Keenan Allen at around pick 100, 120.
The other part, we know that they lost their left tackle in Rashawn Slater. It has been, I think, undermentioned that their starting right guard that they paid a pretty penny for in offseason, and Mekhi Becton has not practiced in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like multiple starting offensive linemen that we are dealing with now for the Los Angeles Chargers. Multiple.
At least Najee's like jogging.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. I only had like quick hitters from here on out. Other injuries. I know Marshawn Lloyd once again got offseason buzz, but Marshawn Lloyd once again is dealing with a hamstring injury. This was after another offseason injury prior to this. Emmanuel Wilson is just never going to die in this backfield. So it is Josh Jacobs, full steam ahead, the most vanilla second round pick you can ever make, but for good reason. He should not go any further than like, let's say the 210 right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's nothing bad to say about Josh Jacobs' profile right now. And by the way, you can get a really good vanilla ice cream that is kick ass. And I think that's what Josh Jacobs is. Get a good one.
I just quick shot again to Isaac Tesla. Pointed out first preseason game, cracking down on blocks, making big time moves. His movement overall is just that of an NFL player. Made some sick contested grab this week. Again, throws his back shoulder back, goes up and high points it. He is not overtaking Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is not overtaking Jameson Williams. Injuries do happen, but he is going to make his mark in the running game and then be this team's wide receiver 3. I'm not saying it's going to be production, but just shout out to the Tesla man out there.
Everyone loves him. So yeah, I think he's going to be the wide receiver 3 by the end of the year, I would say.
Any final notes on things that I missed across the board? I think that's 20,000 words we just covered.
Pretty much. There's one big one. The Texans rotation at wide receiver in 2 wide receiver sets. It was Nico Collins and Christian Kirk. But the third wide receiver, and this was the surprising thing, was actually Xavier Hutchinson, who is ahead of Jaden Higgins and Jaylen Noel. Jaden Higgins had a drop. So I just want to like kind of like recalibrate the week one expectations for Jaden Higgins. At times, it seemed like the beat reports were saying that Jaden Higgins is going to be like a 3 wide receiver set starter. That's still definitely possible. I don't think it's guaranteed. So he's like now a top 90 pick on Underdog. So like, I get it, you're playing for upside down the stretch, but I was a little bit more hopeful that he was going to be out there ready to go right away. And it sounds like Christian Kirk and Xavier Hutchinson are at least ahead of him like today.
When Christian Kirk is healthy, Christian Kirk's going to be starting wide receiver on the Houston Texans, attached to CJ Stroud and running next to Nico Collins. I'm above market on Christian Kirk, having him as wide receiver 53, and he goes as wide receiver 57. We'll talk about that more in tomorrow's episode of the PPR show, because he is definitely a PPR ass pick. I also want to throw out DJ Giddens on the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think he's being drafted among these other obvious handcuffs out there, but he is so clearly the handcuff, unless the Colts make a move for a backup running back, to Jonathan Taylor. And yeah, you and I are 7 to 10 running back spots ahead on DJ Giddens in the market right now.
Giddens could play on passing downs or early downs too. So I do like him. And Jonathan Taylor's ripe for injuries. He's had them before. He touches the ball 20 plus times per game. That's how you kind of find backups. My last one, the Cowboys rested Javonte Williams. That was a sign that he's going to be their starter. They gave Miles Sanders some run. Jaden Blue didn't play. As a reminder, they're going to use a fullback. Kevontae Turpin, a wide receiver, he gets running back touches. Phil Moff is involved here. I think this thing's far from settled. Everyone's going to get touches. It's going to be disgusting. Week 1 rankings will very most likely be Javonte Williams ahead there, if that matters.
And Jalen McMillan got banged up, fell down awkwardly on like his neck, head area. Hopefully he's okay. If Chris Godwin misses, Jalen McMillan's going to get a whole bunch of playing time to open the season, because this team runs 3 wide receivers at a really, really high rate. So like, while I am continuing to draft as much Emeka Egbuka as possible, that has, dropped Jalen McMillan on the depth chart, he still is going to get run because this team lives out of 3 wide receiver sets. All right. That does it. Again, now we're on the road for 160,000 subscribers. If you can't tell, we watch every single one of these games, give you the actionable information that you need. It is really that simple. So hit that subscribe button. Do us a favor. It is totally free to all of you. We have a video literally every single day for the next few weeks, few months. So hit subscribe and let us help you win. Shout out to Weaves, shout out to Mosho. Go play an Underdog. Up the Villa. We'll talk to y'all soon. See ya.